Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks, and hopefully a happy holidays, whether you're celebrating with family or friends. I do hope you're having a good time of year, good time of place. I do wish all my fellow commanders out there, even if they are Cortex commanders, just like our blue team leader here, the Blue Gecko, I do wish you the very, very best. Now, today I have a little bit of a quicker match for you, so you can get back to eating some of that delicious Christmas dinner if you're celebrating that, or just a wonderful, wonderful dinner nonetheless, or maybe you're getting up early. I know there's a lot of people all over the place. So we're going to be watching today a 4 versus 4. Today's match is played on Silver Ridge. This is a map that I actually haven't seen all too recently, just adjusting the microphone there, getting it all set up. Good old audio trouble, as always. Silver Ridge version 1.0.1. Pretty cool map. It's got a little bit of an interesting, a mess on it today. A little bit of a mess there from our hot pink player eTyler9, but regardless, it's got an interesting symmetry to it. So you can either play this map from the west to the, or from east to west rather, or you can play it from north to south. Both ways work here, and it looks like our commanders today, spawning in on the northern and southern sides, have decided that is the way that they'd like to play it. Now, representing our red team here, spawning on the northern side is an Armada commander. He's got all of his presents in a sack here, wearing his beautiful Santa's hat and dressed up for the occasion. It's going to be Misty Fire. Misty Fire, 25 true skill, coming in as our Canadian team leader here. So going to be, at the very least, showing us what they've got. Making a debut, I do believe. The name doesn't ring a bell, but certainly going to be pulling out all the stops here on Silver Ridge. There's a lot of metal on this map when you play it 4v4. Typically, if you play 8v8, you actually have a whole backline. You have a full backline support here, so you have 4 different people playing backline roles. It means you at least get 2 techers and 2 air, or two support and 1 tech and 1 air. Some variation of that typically is how that ends up working out. But in this one, it just means that as the frontliner, you have your lane to control, but you also have all the metal benefits of a backliner. So really, we should see eco scaling as quickly as possible here. First combat of the game, and it's going to be our yellow player, Tony Stark, number 2. Guess number 1 died in some horrific accident or some such. No spoilers, but yeah, you're a little late to the party if that's a spoiler, I suppose. Gonna be winning the first engagement here as a rover crosses paths with that pawn. Oh, second one. That rover's gonna escape with its life, just barely, but it will matter. The last hit point is the only one that really matters, so sure, it's happy to be moving along. Turd bucket underscore is good. Going to be our orange team commander here, representing the the western side of the red team here. I was going to say representing the red team, but I guess the whole red team is representing the red team, but they're definitely going to be in charge of this western side. Probably some amount of responsibility for this hillside over here as well, I would argue. It's a little bit difficult to determine who should be fighting where, right? Because this map features 2 large hillsides and then this big valley in the middle. Typically, you want 2 players fighting in this valley, but you also can't neglect these big run-by paths that are available when you have these hillsides over here. So it's nice to see, at the very least, that our green commander Ben the Best Ben the Best is sending over a couple of craft here to try and do a little bit of damage, discovering at the very least that the red team is not super quick on the expansion here. Now that does signal that it's not a greedy start here for the red team. A little bit of action over here as a bunch of grunts get engaged into a little bit of a battle right now. Respawn already out in the field, putting one of these grunts back on its feet. That's quite nice to see. Could certainly turn the tide of this battle here as more and more grunts are pumped out by Turd Bucket, but also are resurrected on the battlefield here. It's going to mean that the army spirals ever more out of control here for the blue player to handle. So that could end up being a tremendous benefit. Now there are thugs, having my Armada units crossing over with my Cortex. Thugs here going to be pumped out for the Blue Gecko here. Wind speed looks like it took a dramatic dip, and so all these commanders right now struggling to find the energy that they need to keep their warfare raging across the universe. There's a blitz going to go in for the kill on a metal extractor. Oh, here we go, and lovely stuff. Excellent little snipe right there. Pawns and blitzes staring at each other, having a lovely time. Misty Fire using the commander to come across the face of these blitzes right now. Not bad. Going to dissuade them from holding that line right there. A little bit of aggression over here as a pawn has also pushed through, and I'm not sure if it sniped these metal extractors. Looks like there weren't metal extractors here, but at the very least, if there were, it would have sniped them. Interesting play right now. Looks like all the grunts have been brought down for the orange player, and the blue player is sending their grunts across. It's going to be 9 grunts in total, making their way over the hillside here and into the back line of the orange base. There is an LLT as well as a double LLT, a twin guard coming up, anti-swarm double guard. I happen to like that turret quite a bit. I think it's quite funny. I think the quad guard is a whole lot more funny. I think it's pretty hilarious that they were just like, you know what? Add another one. Make it 2. Works pretty phenomenally as a anti-swarm weapon. Proper T2 anti-swarm weapon. These grunts can certainly do some damage back here. Would love to see these queued into the base of orange if we just got a nice little wraparound on the orange base like this. Move all of them in simultaneously. We're going to kill all the metal extractors as well as the wind turbines. Solar panels are going to shut down real quick. This twin guard is pretty nice, but it doesn't really cover all too much of the base. We could certainly assault the major components of the economy here if we just move these pawns in at just the right time. Looking at the minimap, doesn't look like there's any other aggression, so we'll just watch this play out here. Yep, Grunt's moving in for the kill. Okay, depending on the splitties here, we could see a complete base wipe. Getting those constructors is really nice too. There's only a single construction turret. It's more than enough to stabilize here if the construction turret stays alive, but it is not the case. Oh, and down goes many of the major sources of economy right now for the red, or for the orange player rather. The blue gecko going to be, yeah, continually harassing down the orange player. There we go. Finally taking out the remainders of the energy production right now. Turd bucket. Ah, interesting. Okay, goes for a forward lab here instead. Gonna need to start up some energy production as well, as solar panels as well as all those wind turbines are under attack, so that's going to mean that those are, for the time being, going to be out of commission here. A little bit of a weird laser turret battle. Why isn't this one firing? Oh. Oh, that's interesting. Today I learned the Armada sentry has a range of 430. The Cortex sentry has a range of 435. Very, very slight difference right there, but I suppose in this one specific battle, it made a difference. I always just assumed that they had exactly the same range. I had no idea that they were different. You learn something new every day. Isn't that what you just love about this game? There's always some new nuance to learn about and study and adapt to and overcome. Sure, all the Cortex commanders are thrilled to have a superior light laser tower by 5 range. Bunch of units making a big run by over here. It looks like the forces for Cyan have been defeated at this point, and oh my goodness, how do I even say that name? U6. We'll call you U6 like a droid. U6 here. Cyan player. Completely eviscerated right now by Mystifier, who has pushed pretty far forward and shut down all the blitzes right now. That's tons of metal that this Resbot should be happy to eat up, but ooh, the red player actually can't even spend all their metal right now. When I'm in a metal overflow, a metal surplus like this, typically what I tend to spend my metal on is a whole lot of advanced solar panels. They're very expensive in the metal department, and typically it ends up being quite a worthwhile expense. That's not to say that there's not other good moves too. You could also go into a vehicle bay. Those are very expensive to start up in the metal. A couple of riot tanks taking an excellent trade right there, shutting down so many of those Rocketeers here. Although a lot of that metal is going to go back to the neon, or the hot pink commander. So that trade, I mean, it's nice that those tanks went down, but yeah, all that metal that went down in bots right there is just eventually going to go back to the pink commander. It's the kind of efficient trade that you have to take if you're going to go up against vehicles as a bot player. You have to make sure that you're as efficient as humanly possible, or as well, robotically possible maybe. Yeah, riot tanks being blasted apart by the thugs over here. We've got sort of an immortal army coming up right now. The thug push is very, very strong. You get a bunch of thugs together and you put a bunch of resbots behind them, and the ones that go down can be resurrected, the ones that are unhealthy can be repaired, and the ones that are healthy can continue to march forward. It makes for a very difficult push to stop. It snowballs very quickly, and especially for early T1, it can spiral out of control very quick. Reinforcements here are going to try and help out. Reinforcements being 2 pawns. Oh, would you look at that? All right, well, the orange player already tapping out of the game at this point. A little bit of a shame right there. I guess frustrated with the commander going down and the back base completely under siege. These pawns over here, grunts rather, still keeping this base hostage, which is quite funny. But yeah, there goes the orange commander, leaving the red team to fend for themselves, I suppose, on this western side here. Shouldn't be all too long before these thugs essentially clean up this entire western side and get everything back to normal over here. You know what? The Rocketeers putting in a nice amount of work, trying their very best to contribute over here. Mace is also getting into the fight. There's a whole lot less resbots than I would like to see right here for the blue gecko. I think 4 or 5 resbots on the front line right there would have resurrected basically this entire army and kept them in the fight. This push could have essentially just kept going all the way into the northern side and swept across the backline here for the red team. It's going to be a little harder now that there's no res bots out. There's a constructor, so okay, yeah, we are going to start reclaiming rather here some of the metal, and I think that's definitely well worth it. Also, that commander's wreckage is obviously going to be very valuable. There is a res bot headed out now, so that's going to be a prime target for this Rocketeer, but certainly very valuable in the front line. Oh, careful. There we go. Across the lines, though, the red player, Mystifier, is pushing into that vehicle, that mixed composition of vehicles and bots. It's a powerful one, especially because the res bots are so good at picking up those tanks and putting them back on their feet. So valuable to get all that HP back up and running and into your favor here. We'd love to see this res bot. Where did it go? Yeah, it's just hanging out right here. We'd love to see it getting to work resurrecting some of these and maybe pumping out 3 or 4 more just to help out with resurrecting on the front lines. It takes up a tremendous amount of energy, but with how much metal you're getting from holding all this position right here, it's not like you can't afford it. Armed to the core, playing as Cortex as, you know, that's well done. Suiting the name, I should say. A slow siege all over the place as we're just mounting more and more T1 forces all over. A little bit of a, well, I say a run by. It's not quite at running speed here. A walk by maybe might be the appropriate term here, as a couple of Rocketeers are now assaulting the backline of the blue player. Not something we see every day, but, you know, often are we surprised by the antics that some of these lobbies get up to here. And indeed, in this case, it's going to be a couple of Rocketeers taking down some economy for the blue player. Lovely. I think run-bys have a tremendous potential on this map. I really feel like the aggression is quite low here for all the players on the red team. And we have all these units right now that Tony Stark is getting ready to move out here. Rocketeers and Maces. It's a very expensive T1 army. We have a grand total of, whoops, let me try and select all those. There we go. About close to 3,000 metal tied up in T1 units right now. Keep in mind that a T2 lab, a full-blown T2 lab, costs 2,900. So we have essentially a T2 lab in T1 units, but obviously a T2 lab cannot fire back at an enemy army, so it's, at least for now, going to be much more valuable to have these units out on the field fighting, but we should think about trading them out basically as soon as we can, especially with how much metal there is available all over the map here. A bunch of hounds are being redirected over here by E-Tyler 9. That's actually quite nice. Nice game sense to remember that, well, if the orange player is tapped out already, that means the site is essentially completely exposed here, and remembering that that's going to need reinforcements. The reinforcing forces for Tony Stark are going to try and clean up some of the leaking units here for the blue player trying to push in, but I think those hounds will be what ultimately decides whether or not the blue player is able to make any progress over there. Commander goes down over here on the right-hand side. Looks like it was just barely out of position. U6, our favorite droid, otherwise known as Gecko. I guess Gecko is a little bit of a more familiar name. Going to be, well, yeah, trying to fend off these medium tanks here, but we do have some res bots patching together tanks. Slowly but steadily. Well, there's a single one patching together tanks. His brothers need to get in on the help here, but other than that, yeah, these tanks are going to be able to tear through the Cyan player right now. Gecko with their back up against the wall right now, and the wind turbines are at risk. T1 lab has already gone down. The last of the tanks has fallen. Things are looking quite bad here for the Cyan player. We're suddenly turning into a full-blown West versus East match. Complete swing of the game right here. Hound's doing an excellent job of mopping up all this T1. They're pretty great at that, especially if you throw them into their Gauss mode. Heavy Plasma is not bad against some of these slower T1 units, but especially if you're dealing with grunts, you definitely want to put them in their Plasma mode, or rather their Gauss mode rather than their Plasma mode, because it makes their shots quite a bit more accurate. T2 Vehicle Bay, just finishing up right now for Ben the Best. It's a nice little vehicle transition. We didn't eat up the T1 lab, so it does mean things like mine layers, for instance, or some of these cheap scout craft are going to be available, but we should really think about getting into T2 vehicles as quickly as possible here, especially with one of our teammates completely obliterated out of this match right now. We're looking at Mystifier continuing to push forward right now. I think now would be a perfect time to go for a T2 transition if we wanted to. I think T2 bots would be absolutely killer. We have the metal for it, and with the metal reclaim from the base over here, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Sniping these metal extractors would be quite nice, as well as building your own, so I'm glad to see that we do have a constructor marching forward and building those mexes. Always very, very important. Runaway blitzes over here. It's just a contingent of 6 blitzes, and up against T2, it shouldn't really be a problem, but there's no units actually out on the field right now. And those blitzes are going to find a massively clumped together wind farm here. Uh-oh. Those wind turbines are going to chain react like light bulbs on a Christmas tree, and there they go. Blasted away out of the map here. Oh, that does hurt. They could have gotten a whole other wind turbine farm here, but instead they prioritized the T2 lab. Don't think that's going to happen. It was a nice try, but not going to happen, at least not today. And those blitzes will be dealt with quite nicely here. Oh, we are going to micro them a little bit. Ooh, might get the build power here. Uh-oh. Oh, it just barely goes down before sniping the build power or the wind turbines. We had chosen a target there. I think we might have gotten both, but unfortunately, neither was the answer. Oh no, the pink player has completely abandoned the match at this point. Tony Stark now taking over the entire center of the map. Man, talk about a couple of quitters, huh? Leaving the match way too prematurely at this point. A couple of blitzes run by and they absolutely tap out immediately. Unfortunate. For shame. No, I'm only kidding. Take it easy on him in the comments section. I understand that pain, especially if you're learning the game and it's frustrating because you lose for something that you didn't quite understand what you lost from. You know, they can be a very painful experience. Suffice it to say, a couple more res bots and some more aggression. And yeah, those players are going to have a much, much better time. Quakers here tearing apart this T1, by the way. Although, if it's moving, the Quakers are going to have a slightly harder time. Not the end of the world, but slightly harder. Hounds also continuing to ravage the T1 forces over here, although they're getting way too close. Oh no, the Hounds have jumped on top of all these forces. It's right about the only place where the Hounds can take a, or rather where the T1 can take an efficient trade against the Hounds is if the Hounds move in against them. Uh-oh. Tony Stark, APM, taxed to the absolute max here as he inherited a whole T2 lab, as well as trying to manage his own economies, as well as the aggression from the player on the western side. Surely, yeah, the APM tax was a little too high and suddenly mismicroed all those Hounds forward right here. It's going to mean that there's basically no contest for these units moving forward. Meanwhile, backline being ravaged over here. Mystifier trying desperately to shut down as much economy as possible with this run-by before those T2 forces clean it all up. It's a tricky gamble. The more money you pour into a run-by that the enemy can clean up, the more metal you leave on their side of the map once it's all well and scrubbed away. That being said, this is a healthy number of stouts. They're quite powerful, especially when grouped up. Quite difficult to bring down, too, even for these T2 heavy tanks. And we need to see these keep moving, though. Bulls are going to be phenomenal against these. Bulls just output a tremendous amount of damage, and they're quite sturdy as well, so they can really take a hit from those medium tanks. Here we go. Yeah, the tanks will shut down those heavy tanks that are being pumped out by the purple player. A little bit of a lackluster response right there to the forces in the backline, now shutting down the energy production. You know what? Another big wind turbine field will chain react. For anybody that doesn't know, that might be out there watching this, maybe some of the players playing in this match out there watching this. If you build your wind turbines too close together, i.e. if you build them 3x3, I need a constructor in order to highlight this properly, but I'm going to watch this match first. Let me see here. If you build your wind turbines like this, in rows of 3, they will chain react. If you build them like this, they won't chain react. Or, if you hit Z, to put a space between all of them like this, they won't chain react either. That being explained, the entire base for the purple player has been shut down, save for a single energy storage and a lone advanced metal extractor. There is a forward facility coming up, though, so that's quite nice. Armed to the core, not willing to tap out quite yet. Lovely to see that. Couple of riot tanks. Oh no, those are Quakers actually. Oh, they're gonna fire on the wind turbines. Oh, and they do get the oh, they don't cause the chain reaction though. Oh no. One more shot ought to do it. And there they go. Wind turbines chain reacting just as I said. And you can watch all of those exploding in glorious detail coming across your screen right there. Resbots over here have ran out of purpose. We'd love to see these retracted and maybe start eating up some of this wreckage left over on the field. Easy to lose track of your resbots. Sometimes they really do get away from you. Blitz is being used right now, but actually finding an excellent target in these Rocketeers. Tons of these T1 bots still being spammed out right now. Bit unfortunate because those T1 bots are going to trade out much, much less efficiently as we move into the T2 stage here. Sheldon going to wail away on them from far distance. Yeah, it's a bit of an unfortunate scenario to have a bunch of Rocketeers and Maces in. But that being said, going up this hill is going to slow them down quite a bit, allowing the Maces to get a couple of shots in. Not the end of the world by virtually any measure. Sprinters jumping on top of the heavy tanks. Sprinters can effectively counter these tanks, surprisingly. It's not their damage that does it, it's the fact that they're so mobile that the tanks actually struggle to hit them, so if you keep microing them around in circles, the tanks have a really hard time killing them. But obviously that's very APM intensive, and for players who are not used to spending that APM efficiently, it can be quite challenging to get those sprinters to actually do what you want them to, i.e. trying to, kill heavy tanks with them. Another massive wind turbine farm. Makes me wonder if bombing would be super effective right now as well. There's no anti-air defenses for virtually any player on any team, I might as well note, but a couple of bombers sent across the map would shut down a couple thousand energy production for the entire red team, might swing the balance of this game. So far, looking quite even right now. The energy production is vastly in the favor of the red team right now, but the metal production is basically the same. Metal is what deals damage across the map, though, so I'm tempted to give the advantage to the red team, who is producing more while the blue team is eating more. And again, doesn't really matter where your metal comes from as long as it is harvested one way or another. Come from the extractors or come from the battlefield, it does not matter. Armed to the core desperately needs to go for some sort of attack transition, though. Commander out here on front, pretty far forward. Uh-oh, uncloaks right there, and these medium tanks are going to find it. Yeah, those medium tanks will make pretty short work of a commander. Sprinters as well. Well, you can see as soon as those sprinters contribute that flanking damage, the commander melts away, and there it goes. Armed to the core, losing his commander, bringing down the total commander count here for the blue team only to 2, while the red team still holds on to all 4. 1, 2, 3, and there's the 4th right there. Resurrecting the enemy base. All right, well, talk about cheeky strategies today. I was a resurrected commander. That makes sense. So a resurrected commander right here going to be making its way across the map. Resbot's patching together a T2 lab in the enemy's backline, I suppose. That's quite ridiculous. Going to be trying at the very least to get some work done. Maybe pump out some units. We were resurrecting advanced solar panels. That's quite nice. A little bit of energy production. Never hurt anybody. I'd love to see this commander walk over into the green base, though. It'd be so unfortunate if the green player just watched as all of their hard work got D-gunned down right there by a commander walking in. And it wasn't even, you know, it was a friendly commander turncoat. Turned to the other side. Yeah, this is rapidly turning into a West versus East game. So just as I said before, this map can be played in a whole load of different directions. Ooh, there we go. Well, we're reclaiming and resurrecting whatever we can here, which is quite nice to see. Blitz is going to try and come over and deal with a lot of this. Resbot's going to be more than capable of keeping basically anything alive here. Oh, they're going to eat up the blitzes. Offensive reclamation. That's hilarious. Will they do it again? I want to see them do it again. Oh, damn. I wanted to see him eat up these tanks. Oh no, the Bulls just ravaged them right there. Bulls came back to help with the, well, now newly reclaimed red base that's been popped up over here on the blue side of the map. And they're going to be more than enough to break the tie right now as a bunch of these medium tanks. Well, the medium tanks do roll in. These are reinforcing tanks that I think were built up over here, but eventually pulled over to help the red commander, and they're going to be sent on over. Sprinters sent to deal with a whole bunch of grunts. Pretty much the big daddy to the pawn. Older brother, if you will. A couple of Sheldon marching forward, too, and the yellow player is rapidly losing their base. Well, one of their bases. You inherit a base like that, and I suppose it means you're going to, have a little bit more of a multi-dimensional fighting role. A couple beamer turrets trying, but there's not enough energy production right now, and wind speed took a sharp plummet right there, right when the green player could have used it the most, and unfortunately it's going to mean that these beamer turrets don't get nearly as much effect as they probably could have. Still going to cut down a couple of these tanks, though. Oh, man, the beamer turret, so effective. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe a 5th. Maybe. It's gotta cut through the armor of this dead tank first. Nope, not gonna get it. Friendly artillery fire. Oh no, it's not friendly actually. It is Mauser fire up on the hill right there. Ben the Best, gonna have to rebuild a T1 lab right here. I feel like we've seen so many of these already this game. That's tremendous. Economy's still looking dead even, by the way. This match is flipping on its side, but still quite even between both of these teams rather. 2 versus 4 though is always very difficult to fight. Effectively, the red team is gonna have to put out twice as much APM here per player as the blue team is going to have to if they want to try and win this. But, I mean, that being said, they're shutting down metal extractors left, right, and center over here. Those advanced mexes go down as well as the tier 1 mexes. Console even going to go down right now. The nice thing about the sprinters is they don't overkill very much, which means that you can actually go in and resurrect things, which I think is part of the strategy here for Mystifier, who is going for, quite a lot of those resbots so far. Seems to be enjoying resurrecting a whole lot of the enemy bases and fortifications and strategies and positions all over the place. Just about anything that can be resurrected. Looks like the red player is happy to. A couple of grunts trying to run on by. I'd love to see these split up here. Take these 2 and send them on to the, some of these metal extractors. Take these 2 and send them into the base just to probe around and see where the actual enemy lines are. There's not a whole lot of defenses set up to keep all these mexes safe, so it's actually extremely vulnerable to run-bys right now. Scorpion turret was built on this hill. That'll be quite deterring for these medium tanks right now, alongside these Sheldon and even an Arbiter up here. Firing away those heavy rockets. Very, very unhappy to push into those rockets. Well, pushing into the rockets actually not an issue, but standing still against the rockets definitely going to be a painful experience right here. Uh-oh. Case and point, I do believe we're about to see this Arbiter fire a crazy missile at all this. Maybe. Well, doesn't have vision yet. Never mind. Rather watch these Mausers shell away from the high ground over here. Somehow the high ground has remained uncontested. However, yeah, Ben the Best is just, oh, even building a radar jammer over here to keep the base well cloaked. Okay, nice. Hiding from the torrent of red forces here and just hoping that the blue can sweep through the northern side right now. So far, it seems like that's the case. Oh, all the dogs are barking. There must be a new guest showing up for the holidays here. Enjoying the holidays. We've got a whole family vacation staying at home with us today, so it's, yeah, it's quite exciting. Trigger was pulled over here and all the medium tanks roll on forward, accompanied by the sprinters as an assault force. I really like that play. That's quite nice. Going to shut down a lot of these Sheldon and force them to fire in the wrong direction or miss whatever shots they do take. And the medium tanks are going to be more than happy to roll on through and clean up whatever is left. Is there enough heat here to push through? Oh, I'm not quite sure. Those medium tanks have a lot of health on their backs right there. The armor plating is relatively thick, but for T2, it's not like the T2 laser beams aren't built to cut through that armor plating. They absolutely are. Sumos are perfect for dealing with these medium tanks. They're sturdy enough to stand up to the firepower, and they have enough damage output to burst those tanks down pretty quickly. But that being said, this is a tremendous amount of medium tanks. All rolling right now into the Blue Gecko's base. They're going to target the fusion reactor. I think that's a great idea. Try and burst that down. That's a significant portion of the energy economy right here. If we could take down some of the advanced metal extractors and the advanced solar panels, that'd be great too, but otherwise I think this attack has already been well justified. An opening has been created, and now we can express that opening to the maximum, try and do some damage over here. There is a whole bunch of tanks gathering, but those are going to be blasted apart by the Mauser firing away from on high, as well as a couple of Janus tanks getting into the fight there. Ugh, losing my voice. You can already hear it. I'm recording a whole bunch of videos all in post, so, in groupings rather, so taking a strain on the old throatular cavity. Mystifier still pumping out units in mass here, just going for a full T1 medium tank swarm. Not the worst strategy I have ever seen. Medium tanks definitely very, very potent. And on a map like this, well, you'd expect them to perform a little worse than they are, but there's just enough flat ground that the tanks can be powerful, and just enough high ground that those tanks can fire away effectively. I do love to see it. More of those advanced mechs is going down right now, and this is looking worse and worse for the blue team. You know, I say that, but the red team is still, they're basically neck and neck. As long as the reclaim is on point, it's not really going to matter. Both teams really have a knife at each other's throats right here. It's just a matter of who's going to thrust first. Now those medium tanks have stopped moving. That's unfortunate. They definitely could have gotten quite a bit more value if they just moved into this base a little sooner. Looks like some of these tanks are going to decide to do that. I would love to see him sent up north here to shut down all the mexes for the blue player. All these mexes that the blue player has taken right here, by the way, are the only reason that the blue team is still in this game. The fact that so much economy has been built over there is tremendous. Loads of wind turbines at risk right now, though. Huge Sheldon army pushing forward. Sprinters jumping on top of it, though. Pretty good unit to send into the fray. Sheldon have a weird role as a sort of mixed assault and siege unit. They can sort of tango with some of those faster units, but they also have that ultra long range. There go those wind turbines. Chain reacting, by the way. Gotta spread those out. It makes something really powerful on the aggression like this because they can march forward, they can deal with any assault units you throw at them, and they can also continue shelling away from a long distance. Makes them a very, very dangerous asset to come up against on the battlefield here. As you can see, the red player losing vast quantities of their base. Lightning turret going to be quite nice here. Well, for the couple of bursts that it got off anyway. T2 bot lab is now out, and medium tanks are being built as well and queued backwards into the main area over there. Would love to see these red spots now moving up north and resurrecting all this. It's so hilarious how much has been resurrected and repaired. Another run by the way, has happened and sent through to the blue player's base while the blue player, the cyan player rather, was attacking into the red player's base. So a little bit of punch and punch and punch and pull and pull and punch. Twist and jab and thrust and pull. And by the end of it, you've probably played Bop it 3 or 4 times. Bunch of resbots now trying to continue resurrecting stuff over here. I think it all was resurrected and then killed and then resurrected now once more. We do see a bunch of, well, advanced metal extractors are quite nice, but also the wreckages of different bases and whatnot lying in the ruin over here. Feels like both teams unsure of exactly how to end this match. The attacks through this side have been damaging but not crippling, and the attacks on the northern side have been slow but unsuccessful. Slow and unsuccessful, maybe the right way of putting it here. Medium tank's going to start rolling on in. Can they catch the Sheldon is the question. Sheldon obviously not going to struggle as hard up this hill right here, so if they can get up on top of it, those medium tanks are essentially going to halt as soon as they hit that hill. Yeah, there's no way for them to move very quickly up that hill. In fact, can they not move up that hill at all? They cannot. Okay, yeah. Sheldon retreating to the high ground right there. Unfortunate. Yeah, the blue player, or rather the red player, just doesn't have a way to punish those Sheldon for going in there. And now they're taking an incredibly efficient trade right there. Really, really nicely done. Finally, the lime green player has been wiped out. Whole bunch of medium tanks sent over in that direction as well. Going to shut down, at the very least, a couple of the bases over here. Shut down the commander, shut down the solar panels, shut down the production facilities. It's going to be up to all the constructors that remain here to rebuild once more the Green Empire. Yeah, the red team looking for the final commander. Indeed, it does lurk over on this base right here. If they could snipe this final commander, they can snatch the win for this game, but obviously the blue team's not going to make it easy. Whole lot of Sheldon have been bundled up over here, so they're going to be more than enough to rain away firepower on all these mexes that were taken by Mystifier. Oddly enough, we have these metal extractors, but we don't have these ones back this way, which is quite odd. Oh, and it looks like the force pushing in for the red on the, or well, pushing into the red on the northern side over here. Just going to be too much for the red to deal with. That was a surprisingly close game right there. An excellent hold by the blue team. I really thought it was neck and neck up to the very end, but I guess the red team decided it just wasn't in the cards for them today. What an excellent showcase of a 4v4, and I do hope you enjoyed today. You can always hit a like button down below. Any of them, like or dislike, however you choose. Either one helps me out, so, you know, pick your poison, I suppose. But that was an excellent match, and I sure hope to see you again in the very next Beyond All Reason video. Peace out, folks.